You've probably been told that nuts are nature's perfect snack. Heart-healthy, protein-packed, and full of good fats. But here's the side of the story that's rarely discussed, especially with older adults. After the age of 60, your body changes in ways that can make some of the most commonly consumed nuts silently sabotage your health. We're talking about real issues: sluggish memory, rising blood pressure, struggling kidney function, and yes, even intimacy problems. These aren't random aging symptoms. They might be linked to the foods you think are helping you. I'm not here to scare you, but to guide you. I've spent over 30 years supporting older adults in reclaiming their energy, sharpness, and vitality, and food is often the missing piece. What if I told you that just by switching 4 common nuts for 4 better ones, you could improve your sleep, stabilize your blood sugar, think more clearly, and even reignite physical desire? Most seniors never hear about this because these harmful nuts are still marketed as healthy. But today we'll break that silence. I'll show you which 4 nuts to avoid completely, even though they seem innocent, and which 4 to start eating daily to support your heart, brain, circulation, and stamina. And at the very end, I'll reveal one nut that's possibly the worst offender of them all, linked to liver damage, memory loss, and hidden in more foods than you'd think. Stick around. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a health tip made just for you. If you're ready to take control of your aging journey, type 1 in the comments or 0 if you think I need to work harder to earn your trust. Now let's dive into the good nuts first. These 4 are more than snacks. They're natural medicine tailored for the over 60 body. Let's begin with the one I call the testosterone tree nut. Brazil nuts, the testosterone and thyroid booster. When it comes to restoring the spark that many seniors feel they've lost, whether it's energy, focus, or drive, Brazil nuts often fly under the radar. But in my decades of medical practice, I've found that this one nut can quietly work wonders for the aging body, especially for men. I had a patient in his late 60s, a former emergency responder, who came to me feeling depleted and frustrated. His stamina was low, his thinking cloudy, and nothing he tried seemed to help. Not powders, not pills, not diets. What he needed wasn't more effort, but smarter fuel. That's when I introduced him to Brazil nuts. Just 1 a day. Not a supplement, not a fancy protocol, a single nut. And within weeks, his energy returned, his clarity sharpened, and his sense of vitality came back to life. The secret? Selenium. Brazil nuts are the richest natural source of this trace mineral, which is absolutely vital after age 60. Selenium supports your thyroid, the gland that controls your metabolism, energy, mood, and even your internal thermostat. And let's not forget testosterone. Low selenium means low testosterone, which affects libido, muscle strength, motivation, and sleep quality. This nut helps your body regulate that hormone naturally. But there's more. The healthy fats in Brazil nuts nourish the protective covering around your nerves, your myelin sheath, which keeps your reflexes sharp and your movements coordinated. And in aging, that protection is everything. That's why I caution my patients not to overdo it. 1, maybe 2 Brazil nuts daily is plenty. More isn't better when it comes to selenium. In fact, too much can be harmful. Keep them in the fridge, chew them well, and choose whole nuts in the shell if possible. Think of it as a small act of discipline with a big payoff. Just 1 nut, and your thyroid, testosterone, and nervous system all get the signal that you're choosing life over decline. That's the power of food as medicine. And next up, we've got a nut that protects your mind and your bones, and might already remind you of someone you love. Almonds, the bone and brain defender. Almonds are more than a snack. They're a daily ritual of strength, clarity, and protection, especially after 60. I always think of my own father when I see a small bowl of almonds beside a cup of tea. He didn't know the science behind it, but he knew how they made him feel. Steady, sharp, and centered. Years later, as a doctor, I understand just how right he was. Almonds are one of the most underrated tools for senior health. They work in 2 crucial places that age tends to target: your bones and your brain. Let's talk about bones first. After 60, your body starts to lose bone mass more rapidly. Falls become riskier, fractures take longer to heal, and your independence feels more fragile. Almonds offer a unique mix of nutrients that help reverse that trend. Just a handful contains calcium for bone strength and magnesium, the mineral that helps calcium go where it's needed, into your bones instead of your arteries. That's rare. Very few foods provide both in such a balanced, bioavailable form. Now for the brain, perhaps the organ seniors worry most about. Memory loss isn't just frustrating, it's frightening. Almonds are packed with antioxidants, especially in their skin. Those compounds, including vitamin E and plant flavonoids, directly combat the oxidative stress that breaks down your brain cells. They help slow mental decline and may even support long-term cognitive resilience. But almonds also do something even more basic, yet powerful. They support digestion. With over 3 grams of fiber per serving, they help keep your bowels moving, something half of seniors struggle with silently. And digestion affects everything, from mood to sleep to nutrient absorption. I advise most older adults to eat 15 to 20 almonds a day, raw, unsalted, and chewed slowly. If your teeth or gums are sensitive, soaking them overnight can make them easier to eat. The goal isn't just to fill your belly, it's to nourish your future. Every almond is a tiny investment in steadier steps, clearer thoughts, and better balance. Add them to your routine and your body will start to notice. But if almonds are guardians of the brain and bones, then the next nut is the brain's twin, literally. Let's talk about the one that looks like your mind and helps protect it from within. Walnuts, the preferred food of the brain. Walnuts are nature's blueprint for the human brain. Not just in shape but in function. I once had a 70-year-old patient, Harold, who came to me worried about his memory. He was a retired music teacher, recently widowed, and he'd started forgetting names, misplacing things, and getting turned around in familiar places. He was scared, and rightly so. But when I asked him what he was doing about it, he reached into his bag and pulled out a small jar of walnuts. "I heard these help the brain," he said. He was absolutely right. Walnuts are a powerhouse for senior brain health. Loaded with plant-based omega-3s like alpha-linolenic acid, ALA. This fatty acid helps maintain the flexibility of your brain cell membranes, which stiffen with age and slow down communication between neurons. That's one reason older adults feel foggy, forgetful, or mentally drained. But it doesn't stop there. Walnuts are rich in polyphenol, powerful antioxidants that directly reduce inflammation in the brain. And inflammation is one of the key culprits behind Alzheimer's, dementia, and age-related cognitive decline. Unlike many trendy brain supplements, walnuts get to the root of the issue. In fact, a clinical study found that seniors who ate just 1.5 ounces of walnuts daily showed measurable improvements in cognitive speed and flexibility. But perhaps the most surprising benefit for elders is their melatonin content. Melatonin is the hormone that controls your sleep-wake cycle, and your levels drop sharply with age. Just a small handful of walnuts in the evening can help improve sleep quality, which then boosts mood, focus, and even immune function. I usually recommend 7 to 9 walnut halves per day, stored in the fridge to preserve their delicate oils. And don't worry about the bitter skin. That's where many of the antioxidants live. Think of walnuts as a nightly investment in your mental clarity, restful sleep, and emotional resilience. Harold still eats his walnuts. He may not remember every little thing, but he feels sharper, more grounded, and more himself. That's the real value of food-based brain support. Now, if walnuts are guardians of the mind, the next nut is a quiet protector of your heart, blood sugar, and even your vision, all wrapped into one crunchy bite. Pistachios, the defense against blood pressure, vision loss, and diabetes. Pistachios may seem like a simple snack, but for seniors over 60, they're a quiet ally guarding some of your most critical systems, your heart, blood sugar, and even your eyesight. I remember watching my grandfather, who lived well into his 90s, crack open pistachios in his old armchair every afternoon. At the time it looked like a harmless habit. But now I realize that his routine was protecting his aging body in ways modern science is just beginning to understand. Let's start with blood pressure, a growing concern for elders. Pistachios contain nearly 285 milligrams of potassium per serving, more than many fruits and vegetables. That mineral helps relax blood vessels and counteract sodium, making it a natural blood pressure stabilizer, especially important as arteries stiffen with age. But pistachios don't stop there. They're also rich in 2 vital carotenoids, lutein and zeaxanthin. These antioxidants accumulate in the retina and help filter out harmful blue light, supporting long-term eye health and reducing the risk of macular degeneration, a leading cause of blindness in seniors. And then there's the effect on blood sugar. Pistachios have a low glycemic index, contain a healthy dose of fiber, and help slow the absorption of glucose after meals. For the millions of elders managing diabetes or prediabetes, replacing sugary snacks with pistachios can help prevent those dangerous post-meal spikes that lead to fatigue, brain fog, and insulin resistance. But one of my favorite things about pistachios? The shell. Yes, the shell actually helps. Because you have to crack each one open, it naturally slows down your eating, giving your brain time to register fullness. It turns snacking into a mindful, calming ritual rather than a mindless habit. That's especially useful for seniors trying to manage their weight without counting calories. I recommend about 1 ounce per day, that's roughly 49 pistachios, always unsalted or lightly salted, and preferably in shell. If you struggle with arthritis or weak grip strength, look for ones that are partially split open to make it easier. This one nut delivers powerful support in multiple areas without overwhelming your system or clashing with medications. But now it's time to flip the script. While these 4 nuts support your aging body in incredible ways, there are others that quietly sabotage it, often without you realizing. In the next part, we'll reveal the first nut you should consider removing from your diet immediately. It's common, cheap, and surprisingly harmful. Peanuts, the time bomb of inflammation. At first glance, peanuts seem harmless. They're cheap, everywhere, and often marketed as a smart snack packed with protein. But the truth is, for adults over 60, peanuts could be quietly causing more harm than good. I remember a patient named George, a proud 72-year-old who stayed active and watched what he ate. Yet he came to me one day complaining of constant tiredness, aching joints, and rising blood pressure that made no sense. His daily routine included a bowl of peanuts he kept beside his recliner. "They're healthy, right?" he asked. That one simple habit turned out to be a hidden source of chronic stress on his aging body. You see, peanuts aren't technically nuts, they're legumes. And unlike tree nuts, legumes grow underground, making them especially vulnerable to mold. This mold can produce aflatoxin, a toxic compound that you can't see, smell, or taste. Over time, aflatoxins can damage the liver, weaken immunity, and even increase cancer risk. Especially dangerous for seniors whose detox systems naturally slow with age. And that's not all. Even in people who don't have a peanut allergy, peanuts can trigger low-level inflammatory responses in the body. The effects build gradually. Stiffer joints, foggier memory, and more fatigue. You may not connect the dots right away, but that mild, ongoing inflammation can wear your body down in the long run. Another issue? Most peanuts sold in stores are roasted in cheap oils and loaded with salt. A double whammy for anyone trying to manage high blood pressure or heart health. And peanut butter, even the so-called natural kind, often contains added sugar and hydrogenated oils that make inflammation worse. What's even trickier is how peanuts throw off your omega balance. They're high in omega-6 fatty acids, which aren't bad on their own, but if you're not getting enough omega-3s to balance them, this imbalance stokes inflammation, weakens circulation, and can impair brain function. Then there's the medication risk. Peanuts are rich in vitamin K, which can interfere with how blood thinners and other common prescriptions work in your body. For older adults on multiple medications, this can make managing your health even more confusing. I've seen too many seniors unknowingly make things worse by eating a handful of peanuts each day, thinking they were doing something good for their bodies. Peanuts may have once been your go-to snack, but after 60, the risks far outweigh the benefits. There are better alternatives that offer similar crunch, better nutrients, and fewer complications. And the next nut we're about to discuss may seem just as innocent, but it carries its own hidden dangers, especially if you're watching your kidneys, blood sugar, or digestion. Cashews, the kidney stone and blood sugar trap. Cashews have a charming reputation. They're creamy, mild in flavor, and show up in everything from health bars to homemade desserts. But for adults over 60, these soft, buttery nuts could be quietly setting off a chain of problems, especially if you enjoy them daily without realizing what they may be doing behind the scenes. I once treated a lovely 70-year-old woman named Linda, full of warmth and humor, who came to me with complaints of fatigue, belly discomfort, and frustrating blood sugar swings. After some digging, we discovered that cashews had become a staple in her smoothies, snacks, and even the healthy granola bars she kept in her bag. She looked at me and said, "But they're healthy, right?" That moment stuck with me because it reminded me how easily we're misled by appearance. Here's the truth. Cashews aren't as innocent as they seem. For starters, they contain a higher amount of carbohydrates than most nuts, around 9 grams per ounce. That may not sound like much, but for seniors dealing with prediabetes or diabetes, that extra sugar load can cause small but steady spikes in blood sugar. You may not notice the effects right away, but over time, this leads to that dragging exhaustion, mental fog, and worsening glucose numbers at your next checkup. Cashews can also affect digestion in more ways than one. They're high in oxalates, natural compounds that bind to calcium in your gut. While that may sound harmless, the result is reduced calcium absorption, a serious issue for older adults already at risk of osteoporosis and brittle bones. Even more concerning, those same oxalates can accumulate in your body and contribute to kidney stone formation. And let's be honest, kidney stones are no small nuisance, especially later in life. They bring pain, complications, and, in some cases, emergency room visits. But there's still more to consider. Cashews, with their soft, curved texture, are surprisingly easy to aspirate, especially for older adults dealing with dry mouth, weaker swallowing reflexes, or dental issues. In fact, cashews are one of the leading nuts involved in choking episodes among seniors. That creamy mouthfeel that seems so harmless? It can turn dangerous if you're not careful. There's also the issue of processing. Most people don't realize that raw cashews contain a natural toxin similar to the one found in poison ivy, urushiol. Cashews must be heat-treated and heavily processed to make them safe, and during that process, many of their natural nutrients are stripped away. What you're left with is a soft, satisfying nut that's lost much of its value and carries more risk than reward. For older adults trying to protect their kidneys, maintain blood sugar, and stay strong and safe, cashews are often more trouble than they're worth. That's why I urge my patients to reach for better options like almonds or walnuts instead. But while cashews pose hidden dangers, the next nut on our list carries a completely different risk. One that sneaks up slowly and settles in around your waistline and blood vessels. Let's take a closer look. Macadamia nuts, the silent weight gainer. Macadamia nuts carry an aura of indulgence. Their rich, velvety texture and buttery flavor often give them a place of honor in high-end snack packs and health food aisles. But for seniors, especially those trying to manage weight, blood pressure, or heart health, macadamia nuts can be a hidden trap. I remember one patient in particular, Carl, a retired engineer in his late 60s. Disciplined, sharp-witted, and proud of his structured routines, Carl was puzzled when he began gaining weight slowly, felt sluggish after meals, and noticed his blood pressure creeping upward. "I don't eat much junk, doc," he said, "but I do enjoy a handful of macadamia nuts every night. They're heart-healthy, right?" That question opened the door to an honest conversation about one of the most deceptively rich nuts in the world. Let's break it down. Macadamias are incredibly calorie-dense. Just one small ounce, about a small handful, packs nearly 200 calories and 22 grams of fat. That's more fat and calories than almost any other nut. For someone over 60, whose metabolism is already slowing and whose daily activity might be reduced, that handful can easily turn into hundreds of surplus calories. What makes it worse is that macadamias don't offer much fiber or protein to make you feel full. So you snack on them, feel like you've barely eaten, and unknowingly taken what amounts to an extra meal. This is the exact kind of quiet weight gain that sneaks up on seniors and becomes harder and harder to reverse over time. But it's not just about the waistline. Macadamia nuts are also among the highest in saturated fats. While not all saturated fats are inherently bad, they can be problematic for older adults who are already dealing with cholesterol issues or hypertension. That same creamy richness can raise LDL cholesterol levels and place added strain on an aging heart. I've seen more than a few seniors lose progress with their blood work after adding macadamia nuts to their daily snacks, thinking they were making a healthy choice. Another concern many don't talk about is the gallbladder. As we age, gallstones can form silently, especially in those who consume fatty foods regularly. High-fat nuts like macadamias can cause those stones to shift, triggering severe digestive discomfort, ER visits, or even emergency surgery. I've had patients stunned to learn that their post-meal bloating and sharp abdominal pain were caused by a handful of their favorite healthy nuts. And let's not forget the dental risks. Macadamias are dense and hard, And I've seen them crack crowns and dental bridges more than once in my older patients. The bottom line? Macadamia nuts may feel like a little luxury, but the price they can quietly extract from your health isn't worth it, especially when safer, equally tasty alternatives are available. Up next is a nut that seems innocent because of its small size, but it can cause taste distortion, interfere with common medications, and even become a choking hazard in older adults. Let's talk about it. Pine nuts, the medication disruptor. Pine nuts might seem like the least likely threat in your kitchen. They're small, mild in flavor, and often tucked away in pesto sauces or sprinkled gently over salads. But these tiny seeds, because yes, technically they're seeds, can cause outsized problems for older adults, especially those over 60 who are juggling medications, managing inflammation, or simply trying to hold on to their appetite and strength. One of my patients, Ruth, a thoughtful and health-conscious 74-year-old, once came to me complaining that everything she ate or drank had a strange metallic taste. Even plain water tasted off. At first, we checked her medications and hydration. Nothing obvious stood out. Then she mentioned a new pesto recipe she'd been making at home using pine nuts. That's when it all clicked. She was experiencing a condition known as pine mouth, a rare but real side effect of consuming certain types of pine nuts that causes a bitter, metallic taste to linger for days or even weeks. While not dangerous on its own, this condition can trigger something far worse in older adults: a loss of appetite. When food and even water start tasting unpleasant, many seniors simply stop eating or drinking enough. That can lead to dehydration, rapid weight loss, weakness, and in severe cases, hospitalization. Appetite may seem like a minor issue, but it's one of the most critical signs we monitor in senior health. But that's not all pine nuts can do. These little seeds can actually interfere with the way your liver processes medications. That's a major concern for adults on blood pressure pills, cholesterol medications, antidepressants, or blood thinners, which is nearly everyone over 60. Pine nuts contain compounds that may slow down or alter liver enzyme activity, changing how your body absorbs or breaks down your prescriptions. The scary part? Most doctors never think to ask about pine nut consumption when a patient's medication suddenly stops working or begins causing strange side effects. Then there's the issue of oxidation. Pine nuts are rich in delicate polyunsaturated fats, which spoil quickly when exposed to air, heat, or light. If they sit on your shelf too long or aren't stored properly, they become oxidized. And when you eat oxidized fats, they don't help reduce inflammation. They can actually cause it. That means more joint pain, more swelling, more discomfort, and worse outcomes for people with arthritis or metabolic conditions. You'd never even know it's happening. Finally, we have to talk about swallowing. Pine nuts are tiny, slippery, and surprisingly easy to inhale by accident. Combine that with dry mouth, which many seniors experience due to medications, and a slower swallowing reflex, and suddenly you've got a real choking hazard on your hands. This is especially dangerous because pine nuts are often blended into foods, making them hard to detect. So even though pine nuts seem harmless, they carry risks that most people, and even many doctors, overlook. For those over 60, avoiding them entirely is the safer choice. There are plenty of healthier, more supportive options for flavor and healthy fat that won't interfere with your prescriptions, dull your taste buds, or raise your risk of complications. Now that we've covered all 8 nuts, let's pull everything together in a final doctor's message that reminds you why these everyday choices truly matter. After decades of sitting across from seniors, men and women in their 60s, 70s, and even into their 80s, I've come to a powerful realization. Aging itself doesn't take our strength away, but our daily habits often do. And the foods we eat, especially the small routine ones like a handful of nuts, quietly shape how we age, either lifting us up or weighing us down. You might think something as ordinary as almonds or peanuts couldn't possibly influence your energy, memory, or even intimacy, but they absolutely can. The truth is, your body listens to everything you feed it, and over time it responds in powerful, sometimes unexpected ways. Today we explored 8 nuts. 4 of them, Brazil nuts, almonds, walnuts, and pistachios, I wholeheartedly recommend for any senior looking to stay sharp, strong, and steady. These aren't just snacks. They're tools. Tools to support your thyroid and testosterone, guard your brain and bones, regulate your sleep, and give your heart and energy the boost they've been quietly craving. Then there are 4 others: peanuts, cashews, macadamia nuts, and pine nuts, that seem healthy on the surface but often do the opposite. They sneak in inflammation, disrupt your medication, interfere with digestion or taste, and slowly chip away at your strength, clarity, and stability. After 60, your body doesn't react to foods the same way it did decades ago. Something that once gave you fuel might now drain you. A treat you thought was harmless might now contribute to fogginess, poor sleep, or sudden weight changes. This isn't cause for panic. It's a call for awareness. A reminder that your body is still adaptable, still responsive, still ready for change. And I want to tell you something with complete sincerity. You are not broken. You are not too old. You are not stuck. The aches, the fatigue, the cloudy thoughts, they are not signs that you're beyond hope. They are signals, warnings, invitations. Your body is asking for a shift, for a new kind of support, and it doesn't require a drastic overhaul. Just a few consistent changes in your everyday habits can create transformations you didn't think were possible. I've seen it firsthand. The man who swapped daily peanuts for pistachios and watched his blood pressure fall. The woman who added just 1 Brazil nut a day and felt her spark return. The couple who began snacking on walnuts at night and started sleeping more peacefully. These stories aren't rare miracles. They are biology. They are your body doing what it's designed to do: heal, balance, and thrive, once you give it what it needs. So next time you reach into your pantry, I want you to pause. Remember what you've learned here. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to transform everything overnight. Just pick one thing, one small change, and repeat it. That's where health begins. Not with giant leaps, but with quiet, consistent steps. With confidence, with intention, and with care for the body that's carried you this far, and still has so much more life to live. Because this journey isn't just about numbers on a chart. It's about waking up with clarity, standing without fear of falling, remembering names, conversations, and laughter, feeling strong in your body, confident in your choices, and deeply connected to the people and moments that matter most. You're never too old to change what matters. And your next chapter can begin with something as small as the right handful of nuts.